Why aren't we teaching about alliances in school? You pay 1/3 of your paycheck, like all of your taxes. It doesn't go towards food stamps. Like the amount that you actually pay that goes towards welfare is a very small amount. A lot of your tax dollars go towards corporate write-offs so that you pay 1/3 of your paycheck and corporations pay no taxes. And then the military budget, which is massive. You've been paying 1/3 of your paycheck for them to have war and chase down UFOs and try to reverse engineer them. We don't even trust them with our food. We don't want them to get anti-gravitational technology. That's a nightmare scenario. We don't want that. What we do want is these people in this country to at some point start to understand war if they're going to spend 1/3 of their paychecks on it at least. We don't even know the basic definition of the word ally here. You all confuse allyship with saviorism, and that's only when you even give a fuck. Most of you don't give a fuck until it happens to you. You need to. How much you give a fuck about other people suffering is how much you will be given a fuck about when you're suffering. Literally, it's insurance. It's selfish. It is selfish to give a fuck. The entire world, not just our country, runs off of precedent. If they can... An injury to one is an injury to all. That's a common saying. And people think that it's poetry, but actually it is the concept of precedent ruling everything, which is what we have. Case precedent, legal precedent, we have 3 branches of government: executive, legislative, and presidential. No, executive is presidential. Anyways, we have the Senate. I don't know, whatever. We have 3 branches of government. I can only name 2 of them. That is argument enough that we fail at education. And instead, from not being... I've said it before that we need to be teaching about domestic violence, like as a form of education as well. Are we teaching relationships on any level in our schools? That needs to be curriculum. Relationships class. Can we have a relationships class? Because relationships matter. We are a herd species. We are a social species. And we are completely hyper-individualized here. We have no communities. Like, especially without churches. We have no communities. In fact, most of us barely have families. Like, especially with how much they're mass incarcerating people. I know I'm not the only one who grew up without a father because of it. Like, my father was a slave. That's what incarceration is. It is slavery for profit under the event of a crime. Who's to say he deserved it? Some law? Like, especially whenever the system is why he's fucked up. They had custody of him. They arrested him for the first time when he was 10 years old. They let him run away from DHS custody and then just arrested him and made money off of his back instead of actually raising him like the state was required and responsible to do. I come from a thug whose father was Hollywood industry famous, very much not a thug, although he was best friends with Don King. My grandfather was best friends with Don King. My grandfather is who ZZ Top accredited where they got their entire look from. were the outlaws. My grandfather opened for ZZ Top for 3 solid years, and that's only one of his musical endeavors. There's a lot of them. He was famous, like way famouser than I ever thought. I did not realize, like, how many people did realize and never fucking, like, let me know why they were raping me. I've lived homeless. Not even the first generation homeless. My dad ran away from group homes. Kids were pooping in his shoes. So he grew up instead on the streets of Detroit, Michigan. And, you know, it wouldn't have even helped him had he been in school for it, but it would have helped me. And in fact, it did help me a lot. I got caught at school with weed in the 9th grade. So I had to go to a deferred filing agreement. And one of the conditions of that probation agreement was that I went to a survival skills for young women class. I paid attention because I was given ADHD medicine. So I paid a lot of attention. I was a little nerd who would either not turn in any assignment at all and just get zeros, or it was just very, very detailed notes. Yeah. So one of the survival skills for young women class, it was a course of 12 different, one was about, domestic violence statistics. Another was about maybe driving safely and using one might have been about addiction. I can't remember what all of them are about, but I remember vividly learning domestic violence statistics. And, they stuck. Did you know that 80% of domestic violence situations end in a death? It doesn't have to be the victim. A lot of them end in a death of some sort. A lot of them. Maybe they wouldn't if we taught about relationships. Maybe people wouldn't be abusive if we taught them how to not be abusive. I'm not just not abusive because I'm a great person. I have a rage disorder. I'm very capable of being abusive. I studied relationships my entire life in Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and had role models that I looked up to who practiced rigorous honesty. It made a huge difference in who I am and what I value as a person. I'm fine being accountable because I allow myself to fail. I'm fine failing. What I'm not fine doing is messing up way worse just to hide that I failed, which is what you have a whole country of people doing. You have a whole country of people who refuse to admit that they're wrong and instead would rather stand over fucking graves and bury people. You're abusive. You're toxic. This whole country pays 1/3 of your paychecks for alliances that you don't even know that you're in. And then you let them convince you that it's poor families. You beat each other up because food stamps exist. That's not where your money's going. If you make $50,000 a year, you probably pay about $50 of that in your taxes that actually goes towards welfare. Corporate tax write-offs and our massive military budget. That is what you're funding. You are funding them chasing down UFOs and trying to reverse engineer them when they should not have that power. They can't even feed us food that's not poison. You guys need to learn what an alliance is. Please. I'm tired of living in a country where you don't even know what an alliance is. And I've been talking about it for the last 8 years. Learn what a fucking alliance is. It's time. You all you're so quick to go to war. But when will you learn the definition of alliance? Please learn the definition of an alliance. You war mongrels. Please. Please.